inspiring. So next we are going to George. George,
the name is Jorge in Portugal. I'm from Portugal, and we say Jorge with a J.
So George. George is a good friend. We spent a lot of time together over COVID at Mildred's Lane, to distraction almost. And George is also very much a New Yorker. He is so much so a New Yorker that he has done many, many, many New Yorker covers. New Yorker being the very well-known, famous magazine about New York, highbrow literary magazine. So George did covers, and George would go around, and you could tell about it, but I was always super impressed by that. And then George and Amy, his wife, bought a barn in Narrowsburg, which is a wonderful little town on the Delaware River, and fixed it up and moved there full time. And George, unfortunately, doesn't drive. So George is stuck in Narrowsburg when his wife isn't around, which is a lot of the time because she teaches in Chicago. And the wonderful thing about this is that, and he will tell you more about it, but I have my perception of it, is that he's forced to really look at a microcosm of a town very close up. And he's a photographer and an illustrator. So what he's done with that is really, really document the details of this town and its immediate surroundings. And his work is beautiful. So it's inevitable that even this documentation is beautiful. And with that, George, I give you the floor.
Thank you. Looks like Barbara pretty much said it all. I just could show some images, but really, I mean, it's been my favorite part of my life has been living upstate. I always lived in cities. I'm from Lisbon, Portugal. I lived in Chicago. I lived in San Francisco. I lived in New York City for 20 years, but I never felt as happy and complete as in a small town of 400 people. Of course, this is the first time in my life I'm living in a place without a subway system. So it's a little hard for a non-driver. So I feel a little bit like I'm living in a movie set that only extends for a few blocks. I get rides, but most of the time I spend here. But I still love it. I have a favorite love song, and that's called I'll Be Your Mirror by the Velvet Underground. You know what I'm talking about. And I like the feeling, that idea, that I think it's very adequate for a figurative artist. The idea that a lot of images that you do come from a place, they can have a lot of motivations, formal motivations, ideological motivations, but it really comes from a place of love, representing something that you like. In my case, what I always loved was people around me and urban landscape. I always loved urban landscape. Allow me to kind of demonstrate a little bit what I'm showing. I'm going to show you some work. So I'm showing the desk opens. Can I show this? My apologies. Are we fine now?
We're good.
Okay. So anyway, I was talking about like my passion for urban architecture, which has been appeared in illustrations for magazines, things for magazine covers and posters, things for New York Times, New York Magazine, and of course, the New Yorker. I mean, to me, what's fascinating is the chaotic aspect that you have in urban landscape, the idea of things that start in one way and then go in a different way. Nothing quite matches. Things are sort of like added, revised, degenerated, regenerated, improved, etc. But it's very organic, and it's. I always say that my favorite architecture is the architecture that is done in spite of architects. Things that happen because somebody didn't quite know what they were doing. It's the amateur approach to things. I've been doing my images out of Narrowsburg as well. The rocks, Main Street, the amazing grain mill that we have here, which feels to me like industrial cathedral. And on the right side, you can see Main Street. I live at the end of this street. My wife and I, we moved to Narrowsburg years ago in 2017, and we bought this barn at the end of Main Street. It used to be a storage space, and we are using it as our full-time residency, storage, and studio. That's really why we moved in from Brooklyn, to consolidate those 3 spaces. We live upstairs. On the main floor is an open space. The one that has the big 108 is a main space that we can use for multiple purposes. More on that. And downstairs is Amy's studio and storage. Amy uses it for studio, but we also open it very frequently for local events. This I work for the town. I do things like posters for the local film festival, and at the 108 we do. Here I've designed and illustrated the Narrowsburg field guide for the Narrowsburg Chamber of Commerce. But these are kind of things that we like to do at the 108. Things like art installations, art projects, talks, parties, workshops, book fairs, meetings. First thing that we did was a local hip hop artists open mic jam, and we do a lot of sessions with figure drawing for local residents. Half of the people that come are people with some art experience. The other part are people with no experience in the arts at all. And that to me is really, really fascinating, the idea that you can have everybody sort of working together and not being particularly left out, excluded. I am really fascinated by the encounter of locals with the influx of people. And I have been trying to document it on a regular basis on my photographs of Narrowsburg. Every day I try to make enough pictures of Narrowsburg to make a 3-image posting on Instagram. That's been pretty much my practice for the past 12 years, in fact. I was doing this in New York. I was doing this wherever I was doing. And of course, for the past 5 years, it's been in Narrowsburg. So here's some of the images that I've been doing. And what I am trying to do is not only representing the place, but also their people. So these are all people that I somehow know. I never go out of my way to photograph somebody I have not talked to before. I let it work in a more organic way. If I bump into somebody, if we have had a conversation, if I know their name, if they know my name, I take their picture. Otherwise, we'll have another chance later on. But really, the idea is making a document of a Narrowsburg that somehow feels tantalizing to somebody that does not live here, or even better, to myself. This is the kind of image that I would have liked to have seen if I didn't live here. I mean, I've always been fascinated by bodies of work, of photography collections that somehow represent a certain community, be it the jazz photography of Francis Wolff in the Blue Note universe, or the Andy Warhol factory photography by Billy Name, or things like that, or of course the WPA photography in the 1930s, all those documentations of the US done by the great photographers of the time, like Walker Evans or Dorothea Lange. That's the kind of thing that I am trying to do here. So, so as you can see, there's a lot of this. I've been living here for 5 years, going on 6, which means that I have hundreds and hundreds of photographs to do. In fact, thousands. It's very hard to get a certain overview. What am I doing this? I'm doing this really in an amateur capacity. I am not trying to make a business out of this, not trying to do a project. It works on its own. I put it on Instagram because it's an easy way of circulating it and an easy way of having it out using a platform that is already in place. But it could be really anywhere. I mean, if I had a way of making books, I would be making books. If I had a space where I could hang this thing and being visible, that would be fine. The way I put it on Instagram is, again, in a very amateurish way. I mean, I go out of my way to make it feel like something personal, almost like a family album, without really trying to define it with too much detail. For instance, I never say it is Narrowsburg, or I try not to say it's Narrowsburg, and I certainly do not hashtag anybody. I just put the first names of the people that I photograph. The point about that is it's not very hard for you to find who these people are. If you are really curious, I mean, you can just Google it around and find my followers, etc. And before you know it, you know who these people are. But I'm just not going to make it any easy. I like the idea of keeping a certain mystery, a certain pre-internet mystery, presenting people with a collection of images that are something you don't quite know what it is. I am favorable to seeing the town in its normality rather than in a normality. There are things that I don't photograph too much, seasonal decorations or specific events or commerce. I mean, I concentrate more on just the people, and even that, because these are just the people I happen to know. It's really not everybody. There's a lot of people that are kind of missing in my photo. In a sense, I mean, this kind of feels like a photographic document, but it is as much fiction as anything else. But then again, what isn't? I mean, I've worked for all my life as a magazine designer. I mean, I know how to organize a visual document that has somehow some sort of like journalistic objectivity in the way that it presents a place. I am trying to do my own version of the place. And then again, that's pretty much what we are all doing. I mean, we are all doing sort of like a creative, idealized way of what we expected a place to be. It's never really the actual thing. It's always something that you somehow choose to select, edit, crop out, and present to the public. So as you can see, there is lots of images, lots of characters. It should be said that these images that oh, that's my wife on the right side. So it should be said that all these images that you are seeing are pre-2020. This slideshow was for the most part done in 2019. So as you can see, there's a lot of characters, a lot of These young people here on the right side are considerably older right now. People have changed, locations have changed a little bit, and more importantly, a big number of characters exist in Narrowsburg that did not exist at the time of these photographs. The cast of characters keeps changing. People move away, people move in. And that's always been amazing to experience. In fact, I mean, COVID, I would say, from the human point of view, has been absolutely fantastic for us. A lot of new characters came here and chose to stay. And it's been, it gave place to a very exciting community. One of the things that I like in all the projects that we do at 108 is seeing people working together that you would not necessarily imagine would be working together, but because it's Narrowsburg, the choice of the variety of people that you could work with is not so big. I mean, after all, I mean, we are in a 400-person town. So it's really, you kind of actually like make it work. It's a little bit, whatever project you do, a show, a movie collaboration, a workshop, a musical event, you make it work with the people that are around. It's a little bit like working with your relatives, really. I mean, we are a 400-person town. So it's a little bit like you are kind of like dealing with the parameters of your extended family. So this gives you an idea of what I've been doing, and here's some of the Instagrams where you can see some of my works. Oh, wait a minute, sorry. Jorge Colombo should only be one word, but that's about it. And I think I should stop sharing the screen, which I am doing now, and that's it. So that's what I have to say. Good.
Wonderful, George. Thank you. I'd never seen so many of your images at the same time, and we need to talk about doing a book.
We can make you can find a lot of more recent work on my Instagram. I mean, if you go to Jorge Colombo.
Yeah, no, I know. I follow you. I know. They're wonderful. That's why we invited you. But seeing them all together like this would make just a wonderful photo book, photography book. Definitely.
So that's it.
Thank you so much.